Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here on this beautiful Thursday. Looking forward to hearing about, here's some folks talking about the Kansas City trip. Looking forward to hearing about that.
Yep.
Echo.
Nope, that's me.
1 second.
This is going to be tricky.
That's pretty good, isn't it? That AI what? The AI.
Williams, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Commander?
You see me for a couple minutes and just wait before you leave.
Okay. Joe, you mind?
Thanks, Phil.
Are we good to continue?
I think so.
So again, welcome. We want to go ahead and certify that we have a quorum for the executive committee, and I know we have someone participating remotely, so we'll deal with that in a moment, but once you do the roll call.
All right, Town of Ashland, Mr. Hodges.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Present.
Mr. Coda. Chesterfield County, Mr. Holland.
Here.
Richland County, Chair Lumpkins.
Here?
Ms. Lascalette. Hanover County, Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Davis. Henrico County, Ms. O'Bannon. Ms. O'Bannon,
She can't hear anything.
I believe you're muted.
Here.
Mr. Thornton. New Kent County, Ms. Page.
Here.
Mr. Tiller. Powhatan County, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Carmack. City of Richmond, Dr. Newbill.
Here.
Mr. Addison. That concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
And I will
And we're going to try to see if Ms.
message Ms.
O'Bannon,
O'Bannon.
she's waving to us
I
now.
can hear now.
Okay, we can hear you. Okay,
I had to turn on a few buttons and figure it out. Thank you.
good morning. I think we got the new procedure here. Just could you state the reasons you're asking to participate remotely this morning, Ms. O'Bannon?
Very complicated, but basically I hired a construction crew to do a lot of work around my house, and they were supposed to come in March, and they came yesterday, and they're going to be here for about 4 or 5 days. And
Okay,
I
so
cannot
just-
leave my house.
Personal reason. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and allow my decision is to allow remote participation, and the chair will entertain a motion that the decision to approve Ms. O'Bannon's remote participation. Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Thank you, Ms. Newbill, for a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so thank you, Ms. O'Bannon. Hope it's going well there, and thanks for joining us remotely.
It's probably loud, so I'm going to keep my mic off.
Okay, thank you. All right. Does anybody have any requests to amend the meeting agenda, add anything, delete anything, move anything around? Not seeing any, we'll move forward with the agenda that we have. So minutes, hopefully people have had a chance to review our minutes from our April 6th meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. And where did that come from? David, thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention, and thank you, Ms. O'Bannon, we heard your aye, thank you. So that, the minutes have been approved. Mr. Parsons, your report.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just a couple items I wanted to highlight under the Secretary's report. We do have, well, I can get to that under the review of the agenda topics, but we do have a proposed amendment to the full board agenda that we expect to be requested this morning. That's a handout that everyone should have gotten regarding Route 288. This was brought to us after the agenda was published and distributed. So I just wanted the executive committee to be aware that this was coming. TAC has seen it, but there are some unique qualities to this, which will be introduced to the full board when it's requested at the meeting. VDOT is here and can certainly provide some background to the executive committee if you'd like to hear that before we get to the full board. So I wanted to raise that. The other things I wanted to highlight were mostly related to the full agenda items for our 9 o'clock meeting. I guess a couple scheduling things. I hope everybody has June 1st on your radar. That is the joint annual meeting. And for everybody in this room, the regular meeting, I believe, will be at 9 o'clock. But there will be a whole day of activities going on here at Plan RVA. And that information is starting to be distributed and shared now. So it should be a great day and a lot of opportunities for not just board members and committee members, but also the general public, your constituents, and anybody else that you'd like to invite to come in. It'll be a lot of it an open house for the remainder of the day after the joint meeting.
Sounds good. Or a couple of things going on there. Mr. Riblett, why don't we go ahead and stay in that order? If you want to give us just a quick summary of what you're going to present to the policy board in less than an hour, maybe it would be good for us to get a little insight. And thank you for reaching out to me. You called me yesterday and talked about this, and this did just land on our radar. So the floor is yours, please.
Absolutely. So we have a TIP amendment for the northbound 288 hard shoulder running project that effectively goes from 7-Eleven to Route 6. It's a project that has been an application through the Smart Scout process. It was included in the consensus, the staff recommended funding scenario earlier in the year. It has some old money on it. It has the CBTA money on it. There's a few unique circumstances with this project. The fact that it has some old money on it means we can initiate that project pretty quickly with the adoption of a TIP amendment and the approval of the 6-year plan. So the request right now is simply to position that to be able to advance it as quickly as possible once those approvals are completed. Typically, it has been seen through TAC and approved through TAC. We're in a little bit of an odd meeting schedule right now, and what we have before you are a couple of options, either to deal with it today in advance of the public hearing or the public comment period being completed. And we can do that conditionally if that's something that you are comfortable with, or postpone it to the June meeting, which is a typical timeframe between TAC and the regular meeting anyway. But I know that meeting is one that I think you're trying to avoid, maybe having some action items or other items added to that agenda. So either option is certainly fine for us. What we would hope we don't do is defer it beyond that into maybe a July meeting, because all that's doing is delaying the start of the project. So the request is really just an opportunity to help advance the project, move forward, if that's something that the policy committee is comfortable with.
Thank you. Any questions at this stage?
The public hearing, when will they be?
What are the changes?
So that is, it's been put out for public comment right now. I think it is open through the end of the month, if I've got the dates correctly on that. The other option that we have, and the other benefit to this concurrent process, for lack of a better description, is that we've got several touch points along the way that we can pause and put the brakes on if we do happen to get any kind of negative public comment. So action today would allow us to keep it moving. If for any reason we need to pause on that, we absolutely have several opportunities to do that with no harm to the funding or the project at all.
I have a question.
Ms. O'Bannon, yes.
What are the changes? What's the necessity for this? Why?
So this project is not included in the MPO's TIP at this point. So this is adding the PE phase to the TIP to allow the project to be open to charges.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Williams.
couple questions. What is the old money that's on the project?
TTF money through the CTB.
Okay. How much money are we talking about?
If I remember correctly, I think it's 6 million in previous. I can certainly double check for that. The TIP amendment is for 4.8, so we're not accessing any of the CBTA money at this point for that.
So up to this point, we've had no public review of the project.
We have had the process to put dollars on the project through CVTA has been public. The MPO's application for Smart Scale, the Smart Scale review process, there have been several steps in the process where the project itself has been publicly available for review.
Okay, that's where I was going. So that there has been some public input up to this point. Now, my last question is, what if we delay and defer to June? What is the time delay from VDOT's point of view in delaying another month?
The June meeting, since it's just a couple of weeks away, is actually what we would have normally expected anyway. So in that sense, either action today or action in June would be fine with VDOT. The request for us is to hopefully not have it delayed till July.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Williams, are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. What you were-
You go ahead.
Well, I'm just following up on what Mr. Williams is saying
Yes,
here. We've got a June meeting. We have a consent agenda that we normally have on our meetings. That we're not going to have a consent agenda for the joint meeting?
There's no action scheduled for the joint meeting right now, so it's.
Well, it's not scheduled, but if we got something like this,
We
I have a little bit of a difficult time taking a vote on something before the public comment period's been taking place. Something's backwards there. So, so it's not, I wouldn't think it would be that big a deal to add that to that joint meeting. I don't think it's gonna add any time to that joint meeting, assuming there's no bad comments come in.
And that is, we are 100% comfortable with that as well. Either option is fine with us.
All right, well, that's what'll come to the policy board shortly. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So now onto the June 1st meeting. So we invited the governor, I understand he declined. Do we know if somebody's coming in his stead from the executive branch?
The communication was to include the secretary. We have not gotten confirmation that he will be attending, so we're trying to nail that down for the next few days.
Okay.
If this is if we put action on the agenda, we'll figure out a time to do it. It might just need to be at the end of the awards or something. But we can make sure that it fits.
Or maybe if we can get started a little earlier, because the event starts at 9.
I believe that's right.
Could we?
Somebody clear? Is that 9?
Refreshments 8 to 9 and the meeting starts at 9.
Gosh, my preference would be to maybe meet at 8:30 or something, but, can we meet off to the side, and if that's just the one item? Well, let's see what the policy board decides, and then we'll sort it out, but hopefully folks are available for June 1st, and the agenda is shaping up. You gave us a little insight to it, so you mentioned just now awards, that's gonna be something new that we're looking at, so anything else, any other highlights for June 1st? I think the agenda is still being worked on.
It's being finalized this week.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. Want to talk about the transportation forum? It seems early, but I know we wanted to get a jump on that. We had a great forum March of this year. Jeff, I'll turn it over to you to guide us on this next topic.
Sure, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I am watching the time as well. We do have, I think the idea about talking about the forum now was, we have not gotten any negative feedback from the event this year. And if staff had the preliminary approval to begin moving forward with that process of setting up the forum for same time frame, same location, those kinds of things, we can get some things underway and off of our plate before a month ahead of the forum, and that would be a great assistance to us. So we really just wanted to bring that to the executive committee, because the executive committee did a lot of the planning for that, and see if there were any misgivings about starting to look in that direction.
Mr. Hodges?
Would this also include collaboration with the chamber as we did this past year?
That's our hope, yes.
And presumably while we had success at Main Street Station, you could discuss whether there was another with them, or are you looking to nail it down as to a site?
We could certainly discuss that, yes, if that's the direction we're given.
But just, I understand success in building on what you had, and it did work very well. So I wouldn't object to it, but if we're collaborating with the chamber, they may have a suggestion, and we don't need to necessarily set it in a location now if we're collaborating with another entity.
The chamber ended up being a really good partner for us, I think.
Excellent.
And they're willing to do it again?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, a little information, as you know, in the past, the location was somewhat based on who was the chairman. And we've had really good turnouts for all of them, but we've had it in Ashland. And I vividly remember the one in Hanover at the motorcycle, what was it? The
Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson place. I mean, related to transportation. And I really think that's a good idea to any, whoever's the chairman, their location, or someone else, if they have something they want to spotlight that's transportation related. I think it's it's nice to see what's in the region.
Agreed. Thank you, Ms. O'Bannon.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll just add to that, as I know Hanover is the next in line, but I did feel like the Main Street Station was such a good central location for everybody, and that probably one of the biggest turnouts we've had. I want to do whatever it takes to encourage the best turnout, rather than worrying about trying to whether go back to Harley Davidson or not. They have a great facility, but it's probably not as convenient for everybody in the region as Main Street Station.
I think it was the giveaways this year that brought them out.
It didn't hurt either.
And the 3-hour limit that y'all put on it, get us out early. That did work out.
That helps.
All right, well, anything you want to add on that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you want to dive into the, policy board agenda quickly? I'll go over that.
Yes, thank you. This is a very full agenda, as you've seen. And I do want to note that the Plan RVA Commission is scheduled to meet immediately after this, the policy board meets. So it will be a full day for many of you. So I want to just put that note on your desk so that we know that there is lots of business today. But we have a consent agenda, which is fairly typical items. There are some action items for a previously recommended amendment to the FY23 Unified Planning Work Program that moves some funds. It doesn't add any additional funds to the budget. That's the current year we're working under, but it reallocates some funds from one work task to another to cover needs that we've identified as the year is starting to wrap up. The conformity assessment has been recommended and is in line for approval. That's an action item on the consent agenda as well. And then there are some maintenance groupings for the TIP that would be for the existing TIP for, as I said, maintenance projects. Under new business, we have a big item, the approval of the FY24 to 27 Transportation Improvement Program. This has undergone a lot of work by staff and the TAC to put this in place, and there's a lot of neat things to identify there. So that will be an action item under B1. Related to that, under B2 is the RRTPO self-certification. There's a resolution there, and it's basically a certification by the policy board that we followed all the rules and things were done correctly to make sure that the TIP and the related items were put together properly. And then under B3, under new business, is another action item for FY 24 to 29 regional funding. And this is focused on CMAQ and STBG funds, the sub-allocated funds that RRTPO has the ability to distribute. This has undergone a lot of work, again, by the TAC. So there's a motion there to approve the proposed allocation plans and new project selections. And that as well as the TIP under B1 are both roll call votes. Under other business, there are other items for action.
Let me just ask you, where, and maybe I'm looking right at it and not seeing it, where are we adding Mr. Riblet in this? Is that something I'll just,
It's not on there yet.
okay, so it's not on there, so,
It's going to be an agenda amendment request.
right.
I would recommend putting that under B4 possibly.
B4, put it at the end? Okay, is that, if y'all have an opinion on that, I'd welcome, but we'll add it to B4. You hear that, Mr. Riblet? We'll put it at the end of the new business. All right, good.
Okay, and then under other business, there is an action requested to approve TAC recommendations related to the project cost estimates reporting recommendations. And this is kind of a culmination of the work that the policy board initiated months ago now to look at tracking cost estimates and understanding why things have been moving the way they have in terms of escalating prices. The CTAC, we expect Chair Guthrie, and I know Mr. Martin is here to have that conversation about the role of CTAC. So that's listed as a discussion item. We have election of officers under D3 and approval of the FY24 meeting schedule. And then Mr. Gregory is bringing an information item about the remote participation policy and observations, I think, about how that's been adhered to and maybe some suggestions or discussion items for moving forward into next fiscal year. I do see, and I should have followed this up earlier, I'm not exactly sure why the agency and committee reports are ahead of other business. There may be a reason for that, but if not, I would recommend moving the other business under item C and flipping those.
All right, I'm okay with that. We'll get to that one. Maybe I'll try to remember to ask some folks to make that motion if y'all are agreeable.
As I said, Mr. Chair, that's a lot. So
It is a lot.
I ran through that very quickly. Be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
It is a lot. I mean, yeah, that is a lot. And CTAC, we want to spend some time on that. So election of officers, are we prepared for that?
Yes, sir. We do have a,
You're not firing me today, right?
as you know, the TPO has a rotation
Yeah.
that is in the.
So this will be elections today, but to be effective July
Yes, sir.
1. Who is vice, what's the vice chair? I know Hanover is next.
Chesterfield,
Chesterfield is up next. Okay. All right.
unless you want to stay and continue.
I'm good. I just making sure we know
You're
what.
looking forward to the June meeting. I know.
Policy is not mandatory. You can stay another term.
I'll second that motion. You can pay me later.
So, all right, that's good. Yeah, that is a lot. So we'll, anything, Mr. Hodges, yes. Sir.
On the consent agenda, this is as much a general question. There are two items under consent. One amendment to the UPWP and the other amendment to the TIP. My question would be, it doesn't specifically say that the TAC reviewed and recommended. It does have a staff recommendation. So the question is, would the TAC have reviewed those?
Good question.
Well, John, I'm glad you brought that up because I was getting ready to ask the same question. I read the same thing in the packet, so thank you for your question. And I'd like to echo what he just requested because I was going to ask the same thing.
It's just, as I understand it, the TAC prepares or helps prepare the UPWP and the TIP based on what I read as our self-certification, how we operate.
But my understanding was the recommendations for allocations came from staff that we have in our packet today. So I got the same question. Did the TAC make the recommendations or did staff go off and make these recommendations?
And the extra is that it's on consent, so it just provides an extra level.
Do we have an answer
Right.
to that question?
Yes. I'm, Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah,
can speak.
yes, yeah.
I'm hearing different questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So I think the consent agenda questions, yes, TAC reviewed.
Okay, it just doesn't say that in the report.
Well, I think we misplaced the
maybe I-
word for the
maybe I missed
EPWP,
it.
under the be it further resolved,
Yeah.
there's the TAC reference.
Okay.
And then the groupings, TAC is aware of those requests. That's more administrative, because it is a grouping.
I see.
And Mr. Williams, I'm not sure if there was a question about the allocations.
There's
That's
a
under new
separate
business.
question I misspoke.
If it's under new business, the allocations,
The
that
allocation.
absolutely went through TAC review and scrutiny.
So the recommendations for the projects that, you know,
On the TAC.
that were being recommended, for example, under RSTP.
Yes,
Okay, so
came from the.
what I read is incorrect in the packet. Because what you've got in the packet says it was reviewed by staff. It doesn't say anything about TAC. I read it several times.
What page is that?
I don't
But it's in there.
know. It's,
Yeah.
TAC recommends approval.
Okay, yes,
In the
Mr. Williams,
narrative.
I apologize for that.
in the
It has
narrative, that's
been-
what threw me off.
We will be clear in the presentation that it has been reviewed by.
Okay. And I'm gonna have questions also on the matrix that you provided in the ranking. It appears, you know, and you've got in the matrix, you're highlighting it yellow. Okay? And then in the rankings, you know, you've got Powhatan in a higher ranking than it looks like some of the projects later on are being selected. Now, I may be misinterpreting the matrix because I don't understand what the yellow signifies off to the margins, you know,
I think that's a great question for the full board. But if you're talking about this table,
I can't read in front of me.
I
much
believe
less
the
from
yellow
here.
is the yellow is the funding program that project is recommended to be.
Okay,
funded.
but in the recommendations, you'll notice that Powhatan has 2 projects. And they are ranked, I think, 7 or 6 or 7, 7 or 8 or whatever. And then it looks like you've got a project later on in the ranking that's being selected ahead of the Powhatan projects. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So ask that last thing again, if there's something ahead.
Okay, if you look at the matrix, you'll see the
And it's on,
rankings.
folks, it's on page 50 and 51.
I don't know where, I had it wrong enough because I couldn't
Okay.
read it, it was too small. But if you look, first page of the matrix, and it'll show you the different fundings, you know, RSTP and CMAC. And you'll see where it's noted whether the monies are coming out of, you know, each of either of the programs. But it provides a ranking. And you'll see, you know, 2 Powhatan projects being shown, but they weren't selected, but yet they appear to have a higher ranking. That is correct. So,
There is a reason, and we can explain that.
yeah, I'm sure you do. I just need to know because it wasn't intuitive to me, the reasoning, when you look at the matrix and you look at the ranking, and then you look at the selection, I couldn't get the correlation. Okay. I have a follow-up question. Explain to me the difference between Regional Surface Transportation Plan, RSTP, and Regional Transportation Block Funding. You've got two different acronyms. I read the definitions and your legend, but they seem very similar, if not the same.
Yes.
What is the difference?
There's no difference. RSTP, Regional Service Transportation Program, was the precursor
Predecessor.
to the Surface Transportation Block Group, or Block Grant.
So
it's just changed in the referencing. We need to do a better job. It's RSTP has long been the term that's been used, and whether it's local staff or others or VDOT or us, we've tried to start using STBG because that's the new reference.
But you're using, but again, my angst is you're using them, again, in your presentations, you're using both of them.
I understand.
And it's confusing, and then you define both of them. You know, we ought to be going with the latest one with one definition, saying that this is the predecessor, or this is what follows, you know, whichever one. But I don't think we should keep both of them around.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
Any questions? Anything else? Do we have time in the policy board to talk? I don't want to add anything. Do we have time to talk about the Kansas City trip at all? Is there anything in there to talk?
If the chair would like to add that to the agenda?
No, I don't have that. No, the chair wants to go out on a good note. We're
Is there something we don't want to hear about in the Kansas City?
I wasn't there, but I would love to hear about it, but I don't want to be here till 2 or 3 o'clock either.
I'll have lunch with you one day.
All right, so is any other questions? Because executive committee's not going to meet until July 6th. So we get a little break here from this, but thank you all for the last year. Appreciate everything. And if there's no other matters before the executive committee, we'll take a 20-minute break before the policy board and adjourn this body until July 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.